Hi, everybody. Today we're going to start working on our final project, and this year we're all going to work on a tic-tac-toe project. And as we mentioned in class, you can make this a really simple game, two-player game where you can play against your friend, X's and O's. The computer program will check for a winner or if there's a tie game. So pretty simple stuff, or you can take it to the next level and actually add perhaps a computer opponent or an AI where it will actually be tough to beat. So you'll need a series of if statements, possibly some loops to determine where to block and where to take an offensive strategy. So I'm going to record a series of videos here just in case people are away or maybe things are going too fast in class. So you can watch this later, slow it down, type some code, whatever you want. But at any time, if you get stuck, just please reach out to me, send me an email, or talk to me in class. So I thought I'd start out just by kind of drafting a little design of what our program could possibly look like. You don't have to do it the same way as this, but as a starter, we're going to need a board, and this is going to be a graphical user interface, so not just text-based. So we're going to want to draw a square-like board. I'm just going to get rid of the fill here. Okay, and it's probably best to make the width of this 900 and the height 900. The reason why is because then you could trisect this into nice even numbers. So remember, at the top of your frame, this is going to be 0.00. So if you think of it as a XY axis, so unlike math class where 0, is at the center, the origin is going to be at the top left. And then the X values go across. So this point here is going to be, just get this out of the way here. This coordinate is going to be 300, 0. Right at that point there. This will be 600, 0. And then the point right at the end is going to be 900, x, and 0 in the y direction. Again, backwards from math class, but the further we move down, the higher the y value gets. So this point is actually 0, 300. And then this point is 0, 600. And then this point would be 0, 900. Okay, and then in the bottom right corner, furthest away from the origin, that's going to be 900 pixels over by 900 pixels down. Okay, so I'm going to keep coming back to this drawing as we go. And once we get the game going, we're going to want to, of course, we're going to want to draw lines like this. And then we're going to have if statements. So if the user clicks in this first box, then draw an X, unless it's player two's turn, in which we'll draw an O. So using variables, we can kind of keep track of whose turn it is, and it's kind of simple actually to do that. So that's going to be the layout of our board. You could make it smaller or bigger if you'd like. But maybe just draw one of these things, one of these maps yourself, just to keep coming back to. Now, before we draw that board, it might be a good idea to draw a title screen with the big tic-tac-toe heading and maybe your name and maybe the date that you created it. So perhaps the first thing we'll do is make a big title screen. So we'll do that today. So whatever, it'll say tic-tac-toe. Of course, it'll be much cooler than this by Mr. Morlag. You can put your name. Maybe you can put date. I'll just put May 2019. And then on this title screen, it'd be cool to have two buttons down at the bottom. One of them will say one player, and then the other one will say two players. Okay, so if you want to play the game on your own against the computer player, the user would click this button, and then it would take them to this screen, and then you would play against the computer. Or if they click on two players, if they have a friend playing with them, they would click on this button, and it would also take you to this screen, except the game would be played differently with two people. So today we're going to focus on this, the title screen. If you want to take this further, you could even have a screen in between that the user can set their difficulty level. So maybe if it's a hard game, maybe instead of 3x3, you make a 5x5 or a 10x10 tic-tac-toe board. I would suggest you leave that for later. Try and get the basic 3x3 game done. So don't worry about difficulty levels right now. That's if you're done early and you want to add to it, then that would be something kind of neat to add. Okay, so here we go. We're going to open up BlueJ. And let's start a new project. So everyone start a new project. And I am going to call this, first I'm going to save it to my desktop. If you are doing this, you should probably try to save it to your Google Drive if you can. So if you're using the school computers, log into Google file stream. Or if you're using your own computer, then you can save it wherever you want. I would probably recommend the desktop. So I'm going to save it right here to my desktop, and I'm going to call this project TicTacToe. Okay. Now, I'm not sure if you know this, but when you do this, when you create a project, if I go to my desktop, it actually creates a folder for you. So every time you create a BlueJ project, it creates a folder. And this is where we're going to put everything. So if you want to have images or sounds, like audio files, then everything must be stored in this project folder, which mine is very easy to get to. It's just on the desktop. Okay, so going back to BlueJ, we are going to do this a little bit differently than what we did at the beginning of the year. So we are going to use J-frames instead of applets. So the first thing we're going to need to do is make a main class, and it's just a regular class. And I'm going to delete all of this code. And first, we're going to have to import the JFrame class. Again, you don't really need to know exactly what this import statement is doing. It just allows us to use all the JFrame commands and methods for us to draw pictures instead of just text. So I'm going to make my class header called main. And inside there, I'm going to make my main method. Okay, so first thing we need to do is we need to make a frame object. Okay. Oops, something is wrong. No equal sign there, and I'm going to call that frame. So what's neat about this, in this project, we're just going to have one frame, but you could actually make several frames, so several windows pop up at the same time. So you could have multiple instances of your tic-tac-toe game happening at once. We're going to keep it simple. We're just going to have one frame for this. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to set the size of it, or set the bounds. So the bounds, we have to set the top left corner, so 0, 0, and then the bottom right corner. So it's going to be 900 pixels wide and 900 pixels high. Okay, this is optional, but you can set a little title. So this is the title that comes at the top of your window when you run the program. You'll see when I run it. So I'm going to put TicTacToe by Mr. Moreleg. You can put your name, obviously. And then there is a command called set resizable. And I'm going to set this to false, and that just means once the program is running, you won't be able to adjust the size of the play window. So that's actually a good, safe thing to have there. And then we need to have this command, set default close operation. So when I hit the X button in the top right, when the program is running, I just want to simply exit. Okay, kind of seems redundant, but you have to have that there. I'm just going to get rid of these blank spaces. just in case you're copying my code, so we can get it all on one screen here, because we have some more code. Okay, so next we're going to make a TicTacToe game object called game. I'll explain this in a second here. And then we're going to add this game to our frame. And we can do that by saying frame.add game. Easy as that. Okay, and then one more thing. We're going to set the frame, we're going to set the visibility to true. Okay, so that is all the code you need for the main class. So if you compile, it's going to give you an error saying it doesn't know what TicTacToe game is. It doesn't know what this object type is. So we're going to create it so that we can get this to work. Okay, so I'm just going to close this and go back to my project window. And now here we go. We're going to make a TicTacToe game class. And inside here, I'm just going to remove all of that code. Okay, so this is going to be, we're going to put most of our code inside this program. So this is going to be our big file. So we're going to have several import statements here. Feel free to fast forward this part and just type these in yourself. Basically, all of these import statements allow us to set up all the graphics and events. So responding to mouse clicks or key presses, if that's what you want to do. So this import statement allows us to import images. And then io.star just allows us to read image files from our folder. We'll get there later. Again, you don't need to know what all of these mean exactly. You just have to have them there for the project that we're going to do. Okay, so next is the header, public class TicTacToe game. And we need to say that it extends jpanel and implements mouse listener. So if you ever want to create a program that responds to mouse clicks, you're going to need to have this code. If you want to have a game that responds to key presses, so arrow keys, then you're going to change that to key listener. But for this project, we're just going to click in the different squares and have X's and O's appear. Or even better than X's and O's, we'll have images possibly. So you can build a little theme. Okay, so we need to set up a few variables up here. Actually, no, I don't need that yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create an image variable called title. So in the course, we've talked about int variables and double variables, even string variables. You can also, there's another data type called image. So you can actually grab an image from the web, or you can create your own image and you can store it into this variable. I'm also going to have another image for the background. So instead of just a plain white background on my TicTacToe screen, you can have some wallpaper here. So a space scene or any favorite background that you want. Okay, and then I am going to have a variable called X image and another image called O image. So again, when I click on a square, instead of just a plain X or an O coming up, we might have a nice nifty graphic, so like a flashy X or an O, or just your favorite JPEG. It could be an Avengers character or whatever you want your theme to be. Okay, and then I'm going to make just an int variable called screen, and I'm gonna initialize this to 1. So this is very important. This variable will tell me what screen I'm at during the whole program. So screen 1 will be the home screen, like this first one here, and then this will be screen 2. Or you might want to add other screens in between. And so then this would be screen 3 or 4 or whatever you want. Okay, so next, players. So this variable will determine how many players we have, whether it's a 1-player game or a 2-player game. So this variable will be set whenever the user clicks on one of these buttons. So we'll get there later, but when they click on one of these buttons, this variable will be set to either 1 or 2. Okay, next we're going to make a method, public tic-tac-toe game. Okay, and then inside here, we need to have this command add mouse listener. This. Okay, this is a bit weird, but this is, you have to put this in your constructor method in order to allow mouse clicks. And then we're going to need a. Actually, I'm going to come back and add that part later. So there's more that we're going to add in here. We'll do that later. Okay, so now if I compile this, it's still not going to work, and it's basically telling me it has a trouble with this implements mouse listener. So anytime you write a program that you want to have mouse clicks, you need to say implements mouse listener, and then you have to add 5 methods down here. So one of them is called mouse click, and the parameter is a mouse event called E. And then right now I'm just going to leave it blank. And I have to do 4 more methods. So I'm going to copy and paste this. Okay, so I should have 5 of these methods, one more. Okay, so the first one is called mouse clicked. And the next one is called mouse pressed. So basically, if I just press the mouse button instead of releasing it, then I can have some code here, so I can do something. Likewise, mouse released. So you can actually have different code in here if you release the mouse button. And then mouse entered and mouse exited. So that means as soon as you drag your mouse onto the window, you can have some code. And then when you remove your mouse from the window, when the little pointer arrow goes away, you can have some code there as well. And then I'm just going to close the class. So that's the ending of the class. Now, you don't actually have to have code in these methods. We're just going to have code in the first method. Let me just be consistent here. I'm just going to space out my methods. I like to have a blank space in between. So we're going to put all of our code here inside mouse click. I don't think we're actually going to use these methods, but you still have to have them there in order to satisfy this mouse listener. Okay, so now if I compile, it should work. Oh, I already have my close brace down there. Get rid of this white space and compile. Okay, no errors. So now if I go to my main and I compile it once more, and then if I run this, you can see your window. So this is the title screen, and you can see your title up at the top. I can move this around, but I can't resize it. And then I can close it like this. Okay, so the next step is to add a nice image to this window. And then we'll put those little buttons at the bottom, our player 1 and player 2 buttons. And I'm going to save that for the next video. I'm going to stop it here. So check out the next video for that.